All right. Hello, everyone. Microphone check 1, 2, 3. Are we on? Testing.
Nicole from the library in the house. You can see I am in the house,
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm
Which way?
joined by a
Go
very
that way.
special
That way. No, there we go. Very
Oh,
special
that's me.
because
to the,
Ross,
to the
hi.
birthday
It
the
is
boy.
my
birthday
birthday.
boy,
Birthday man.
Woo.
Birthday
and
man.
back by popular demand.
It's me. It's the old birthday boy from yesterday. That was my birthday. So we
Yeah.
had birthday
That's right.
week. It's our
Yes.
birthdays.
Yeah. So welcome to our Seminole State family. Good to have you watching on the stream or maybe in the replay. Hey, and even if you're not yet our Seminole State family, maybe you're watching from across the globe. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Today we are going to learn about what is a librarian, librarians defined, and how we can uniquely help students in our unique role. So once again, maybe you're not enrolled and a student in Seminole State, but use this information to realize, hey, like wherever you're at, wherever you're going to school, you can approach librarians and kind of know a little bit better of like what we should be doing for you. Okay. All right. So let's see, we got a couple of people watching. Hi, how's it going? Go ahead and chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Comment in the chat. Tell us if you're here for IDS credit, if you're just a super fan, obsessing over us. We get it. But let us know. Maybe that person doesn't want to let us know in the comments. They don't want to be on blast. And let us know if you have any research questions or if you need a source for a paper or an assignment today, because hey, we're librarians, we're here. We can definitely do that for you.
Yeah, let us know. We want to make this participatory. So chat in the chat and then chat with your chats. And yeah, we're talking about librarians. And let's start it off. Like I think, for me, we all have the same degrees, right? We all have a minimum of a master's degree. Should we start there?
Yes.
Okay.
So education and training and experience. So education.
Yeah. And so my master, well, you have yours there handy. You want to show your mine?
Oh, yeah. And there are a couple different ones. Show and tell. Mine's a Master of Arts.
I can't take it off the wall.
Don't take it off the wall, okay? We don't want to.
I don't
Ross,
know
your lighting. Ross, your lighting is uber weird. You're in techno. You're like techno raving.
Oh, is it blinking? That lamp is broken. If it catches fire, bail on this stream, dude.
Yeah, I was told.
Handle
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so yours is a Master of Arts in what specifically? What are you laughing at?
I just haven't said it in a while. Okay. Why does it say on here?
Wait, we only have
Librarian Information Science.
Okay, so so this is where the discrepancy. And from what university? What university? Because both went to the same
USF, Go Bulls, University of South Florida.
Okay, and as Ross, is that yours the same one?
Yeah, I have the same exact degree as Nicole.
Okay, so
same school, same degree.
Same degree. Mine switches a little bit, where it's Master of Science, and you had the arts, and then mine's in Library and Information Studies. And then my postmaster specialist degree after that is in specialist in information. So nerd alert. So I liked it so much that I went back. But that's the springboard for where I wanted to go with this is librarian is kind of almost like an old school term, whereas we got ours in information science or information studies, and then my postmaster's in information. So I would argue that I'm an information specialist. And so that's where the old sort of librarian, I think my problem with that, and feel free colleagues to jump in, is kind of like the old shh, get out my librarian, everything is quiet. And it clearly, I'm not on that vibe at all. So I've been trying to purposefully sort of eradicate that old stereotype. And then, so how do you feel? Do you feel you're librarians or are you information professionals? Hi, Cyril.
I mean, I always call myself a librarian because I think it is part of that tradition, though. I mean, I've worked in libraries more than half of my life now, which is really strange to say out loud. But I guess I have that feeling of being a librarian. But to your point, Jason, like, I mean, even when I worked in the public libraries, when I was in college and stuff, like, it was never that shh, be quiet. There was always activity. I mean, they were very small libraries. So like, I never felt like it was that traditional kind of thing, even back then. So, I'm with you on that too. Like, I try to never be the quiet down librarian. I want there to be activity. That makes the library feel alive to me.
Yeah, and I think the landscape of education of people who are coming to institutions of higher education has changed over the past few decades in general. That's why colleges, universities are changing how they deliver services and resources to students. And of course, in the library, it's been no different. So whereas, like 30 years ago, it's even less time than that. Like the internet, like, and the availability of information that's already like organized and kind of more easily findable, that's changed librarianship. It used to be literally we were like finding stuff that was almost unfindable. Now we're like kind of more like sorting through stuff that there's so much to find. You need like I don't know if I can articulate this, but it's not so much
well,
wow, did you see that? The brain just collapsed.
I know.
Can you push it back into your
I don't
ears?
even know how to explain this.
But it's the information. We are in the information age.
Yeah,
And so again, that's where it's kind of going into this information specialist, not necessarily, again, if you take away sort of the old look, the books, and this, well, now we use databases, and now we're using Google to do internet searches. And what's disinformation with misinformation and information literacy, knowing how to locate, evaluate, and use your needed information effectively. And so that's where we're kind of at today. So this is what we do. And I put in the chat there, how do you use your college library? Let us know. Do you even know where the library is on campus? Are you here all the time? Are you fangirling or boying? But in this case, we want to make sure that you're able to go, oh, I have an information need. I know where to go to get that information. I know the appropriate source to get that information. I know how to evaluate it for credibility and make sure it's a good, trustworthy, authoritative, reliable source. And then how can I go good? What did I need that for in the first place? And then use that information to satisfy that need that you have, whether that's hunger, whether that's audio, whether that's an assignment. You always have an information need that you have to go researching, right?
Ooh. Cyril said, I use the library primarily for academic databases, research, and for study rooms. Perfect
Answer. Perfect.
Yeah. And in being an information specialist or librarian, whatever you want to call it, one of the things that we really are doing for students and faculty, analyzing, synthesizing, interpreting. So once again, we don't have to always find the information. We're like sorting through information that's easily findable because you can go right into the database and pick up the articles. It used to be that if you wanted, it wasn't on the internet. It wasn't online. We had to anyway, I was going for an example there that I don't have obviously.
Nicole, do you need some water? Because I have some water here. I have a barrel. I can loan you my barrel of water. What do you got, Ross?
Abandon the analogy. Where's the abandon the analogy banner?
Where is it, Ross?
I think where you're going with that analogy, I can remember the very first project I worked on when I started working at Seminole State College.
Back in what year?
I started here in 2007. I think I actually started with 1 week left in 2006, but I've worked here a long time. But the very first thing I did was back in the day, you used to use these books called indexes, which would tell you that articles existed, and then you kind of had to hope that it was available in your library.
That's what I was thinking of. Thank you, Ross.
Yeah. So that's how research was done for decades, maybe even longer than that. I don't know. But that was the old style of doing research. And once the internet came around and we had these things like databases, like Cyril just mentioned there, that really changed the way we thought about finding information. And it kind of did change it to what you're saying there, almost curating it and navigating it more than it was more the information was there and we just had to know how to be the tour guide, how to get there.
Well, and that's just it. It's changing so rapidly. So if you go back to the early 90s, mid 90s, you have the internet, exchanging emails. Pew, 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 pew. Time travel. And so the internet is happening and you're sending emails and stuff. And then it's the computers cost what? $1 billion, right? And the joke was still, oh, you have a computer? Oh, you're a nerd. And then it kind of evolved. And then remember the gigantic cell phones. And then somebody said, oh, well, let's put the email on the cell phones. And now flash forward. And now everyone, has a device. Those who who don't have devices, they're able to go to public libraries or come to our library and use the internet and use our computers, right, free of charge. And so that access is so through the roof now, but so is the information, and so is the diluting of the information by certain people, and they want to have misinformation or disinformation. It's very difficult to understand an advertisement, which is very specific on certain pages, and is that the real story, or is it the actual news story below the advertisement? So it's very tricky, and it's very, very hard. And that's why we as information professionals are here with our capes on, ready to help fly in and save the day, because we don't know. And that's the challenge we have every day. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I love getting here's a riddle, here's a puzzle. What is it? Let's find out together. And that's what keeps us going. And that's why we got these degrees. Can I get a witness?
A lot of mercy. I almost put 4. I like 3s because it's like Fibonacci numbers. Google it. It's fascinating. But I almost put detecting in this string on this banner because a lot of what we do is detective work. We're trying to figure out when students ask us for what they need, we have to, it's called the reference interview, but we have to figure out what you really need, because you might be saying it in a way that is not really saying what you really need. That's part of our job, is to do the reference interview and the detecting work. And then going into the sources, analyzing what actually will help you. That's our expertise. And also synthesizing information from sources we find, maybe even for you, like telling you, hey, student, like this is going to be helpful because of this. I know this looks really confusing right now, but here's these 3 articles. Here's how we would, I would use them for your assignment. So we synthesize information for you. And that's part of interpreting is in there too, because a lot of it is almost like you're a less experienced user than we are of this vast quantities and information, and how it's, and even you're, less, don't have the expertise in how it's literally organized and arranged. So we're interpreting for you, hey, like you need this. Okay, this is what we found, or we're helping you find, and this is why it can help you. I think that's kind of important. We're almost like an intermediary. I got an analogy, guys, but I think I'm on top of this one.
Oh, I thought the rule was to abandon all analogies.
Well, when it fails, you abandon it. And then
we don't know if it failed yet.
Last we're listening. In the clutch.
We're listening. We're not interjecting. Okay.
You can go and search for your own information. You've probably done it before. Okay. Students, anyone that's watching. But librarians are more experienced at it. If I want to change the oil in my car, I definitely have the ability to go to YouTube and other sources of information and figure out exactly how to change the oil in my make and model of car. I would have to find out what supplies I need. I would have to find out how to do it correctly, how to put everything back right. That would take a lot more time and effort than if I just take my car to the shop and pay the mechanic or the dealership to do it.
Sure.
And that's kind of what's going on here. Like,
how did you know it was the right oil? How did you know it was the right parts? Didn't you have to verify it with a source? Didn't you have to confirm with another source? I mean, these are the ways that we do things all the time. Yeah. If you get a call and it's a scam likely or an unknown caller, and you look at the phone, or you figure out some way that the call's coming in, and you go, no, I'm not doing that. You've analyzed that information. You do not need that information. Therefore, you are the subject matter expert. And that's kind of what we're trying to teach all of you. I feel like you're information professionals in training. We all are at any point. Whether you're this old, or it's your birthday today or birthday yesterday,
or this Friday, it might be.
Or this Friday, it could be for Nicole too. Shout out! But all of us are doing this all the time, and it's kind of like we almost have to stick together and keep doing this over and over again. I mean, if you say, "Hey, TikTok, what's going on at TikTok?" I don't know. I'm not on TikTok. But you might go to somebody else, and maybe there's a digital divide, and maybe they haven't used a computer, and maybe they just have a hard time locating a word or opening a web browser. We're all in this together. We are now, there's some folks who were born digital, and they do this, but for some of us other folks, we need to kind of go, what is that? Help me out. If you're planning a trip, you're not going to do any research to know where you're going? What's the currency there? Where's the airport there? Does your airport that you're locally, does that fly into that airport there? Do you have to make a transfer? This is all information needs. And so we look at it through that lens. And I think that's why we're here, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, great.
It's a geeked out sesh on the profession.
So let's look in the chat. Anybody has any questions, any research topics that you're looking for, anything that we can help you find? You can go to seminolestate.edu/library and we can talk about it. This is
banner for that.
Weekly library show. And we're talking a little bit. So we were talking about librarians. We got these degrees in library and information studies, and we talked a lot about in our graduate school how to locate the books, how to classify the books, how to do customer service for a reference transaction. But there's a lot of different areas of librarianship. And then what were we going to talk about next?
Yeah, I was going to give a shout out. That's why I was going to give a shout out. There are behind the scenes librarians, cataloging librarians that literally work like they don't help students directly, but information has to be arranged, organized, classified. I think that's an important thing to say. That's kind of like a geeked out point, because it seems like, what's the big deal? But people take it for granted.
Yeah, but then when you flip it back, we were doing the stuff earlier today with sorting Legos. And don't you sort your clothes? And don't you have some people may not, but maybe your record collection or maybe your hobbies, you're always sorting. You're putting it where you can find it. How many times have you opened the fridge and you're like, I don't know what's going on in there because somebody else brought the food in and placed it? Or you're like this, how about this one? Then now it's getting into a comedy routine. And where's the mustard? Well, I thought I put it there, and then somebody moved it. This is classification. You don't have to actually have the codes or anything, but as long as you know where it is, so it's easy retrieval when you need it, that's part of library science, and that's what we're taught, and that's what we try to teach our students. It's more complicated now because there's databases and the internet and Google Scholar and these kinds of things, but it's the same thing. Hey, I can't find my ... Well, where did you put it? When's the last time you saw it? This is normal stuff, right?
And that's why the books have call numbers, so that when you put a book back, there is a spot. And even if all the books move, that book still has a spot between the other books. Okay.
It's like its address.
Yes. And it doesn't change. So that's why that's a big deal about that. And that reminds me of our mindfulness lunchberry last week, where it was like, put your keys and your phone or whatever in the same spot every time you walk in the door, every time you walk in your office or whatever it may be. And you always know where your keys or your phone are, and you know where to get them before you leave, and you don't forget them.
That's right, Nicole.
Class.
It is time for a commercial. Make sure to support that company. It's a really good sponsor. We appreciate all the financial benefactors there. They're great. We can't recommend them enough.
This Saturday.
Yeah, we can't name them, but we can't recommend them enough. All right, so
we have some goofy. Yeah, the next thing we're going to talk about, some goofy things like we recall, like from looking back, like how did we become a librarian? Like, what are some things we're like, oh, like no wonder I'm a librarian because I used to do this thing and it was like kind of weird and random. Right? Like we have a few things. Ross, we'll start it off with you because we have one in common, which I thought was interesting. So I don't know if
hold on, is it Mickey? Mickey says that was a quick commercial. Are you sure? That seemed pretty long to us. I'm not really sure. I mean, because when you really is it hold on, go to it, Nicole, because it was a really what's the
Wow, that was like really watching TV because there's so many commercials in a row.
Commercial, the loudest volume ever for a commercial. Bye.
And listen, as librarians, we are selling you things you already bought because you already paid your tuition. You paid fees that go into the books and the chat service and paying for us to be here doing this funny show. Okay, but we're
I'm glad you think it's funny, Nicole. You're the one who thinks it's funny. Thank you, Mickey.
Whoa,
okay.
Whoa,
whoa. What? Oh, fangirling. Oh, well, now we have it. Okay. All right.
It's positive.
We're good.
Okay, so one thing I know for certain Ross and I have in common that we used to do when we were kids that was weird, I think, is Ross.
What were you doing, Ross? What is it?
I think what you mean is like reading the almanac. That was like what I did when I was a kid. I don't really remember this so much, but my mom loves to tell the story that like I would refuse to read fiction. So instead, whenever I had to do a school book report, I would just do it on the next year's almanac or whatever. And that's what I did. As I was obsessed with learning how to find the answer to my questions. So I learned exactly how the almanac worked. My parents had an encyclopedia growing up because my mom was a teacher. I learned how every one of those encyclopedia volumes worked. I learned how the table of contents worked. I learned what the index was. Like, looking back on it, like, yeah, I was a librarian when I was 8 years old. I just didn't know what I was doing.
I think that's the point, and that's kind of what I'm saying. That librarian is, it's kind of a subjective term. If you're going to pass the mic to me, I come from radio, so I'm making announcements about bands. I'm going to tell you the band. There it is, radio. This band's coming to town. This band is off their second record. Here's the live tour dates. Here's a little bit of information about the band. Aren't I providing the listener with an information need about that artist? And then I got into improv and I started doing the same thing. A suggestion would be shouted out, and then we would do a whole 45-minute theatrical based on that. So we're again satiating that information need. And then just to button it up, then I got into television news. Of course, you're reporting the news, and those are information needs. So now it's the same thing with a student needing information or needing to discuss a topic in class. I think my through line has been pretty similar, being an information transmitter and just being able to go, oh, hey, and then by the way, Ross, we also come from music too. I'm always like, oh, you got to listen to this record. Oh, you got to listen to this band. Oh, check out this movie. Oh, have you seen this book?
Yeah.
And that's reader's advisory in the library world. That's when you go in and you see like a top 10 or a top 20 list or whatever. So again, I feel like I've always done that. I just didn't know that, oh, that's a librarian. Oh, that's that term. Right. So we're really getting into kind of under the hood of what librarians do. And
under the hood. But sorry, I keep interrupting you today.
Where did you go? You just stopped. Under the hood.
Off.
I thought there might have been another commercial.
So did I. And then you didn't do it.
I keep interrupting Jason because he's talking. I'm like, oh.
But it's okay.
No, but there was one more thing you mentioned yesterday, something about memorizing sports.
I did. I memorized a lot of different things, and one of them is with sports. Traditionally, sports teams are the blank, so we are the Raiders. But I started learning that some of them are singular. There's no S on the end. So, and I started looking at college football or college sports. So a good one is like Alabama, right? University of Alabama, they're the Crimson Tide. Or you go out west and it's Stanford, and they're the Stanford Cardinal. So I would just memorize all of these different ones whenever I heard them. And now I do it for professional sports. The Miami, the one state that has two different ones that are in the same boat is the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic.
And the Lightning.
And the Lightning. So there's another sport in the same state. So we don't like S's. Put that on a banner.
Yeah,
Florida don't like S's.
Yeah, it's Florida, not Floridas.
Yeah.
And those were all pursuits that you did unrequested. Nobody was like, hey, Jason, you really should. No one peer pressured you into memorizing. Yeah.
That'd be the worst peer pressure ever. You better memorize all the bands. But I would get into rock and roll, and I would know what bands are on what labels. I would know who's touring, and I would know who to listen to based on what label they were on. I mean, this is all cataloging and classification.
Yes, cataloging.
And it's the same thing that you I'm sure our viewers out there, you would mention cars. There's car buffs who know in their head how to disassemble the car and put the lug nut with the spark plug and the doo-doo and the I don't know any of that, but isn't that classification? Aren't you a subject matter expert in that area? I mean, Ross has a brother who's a mechanic. Isn't that you just dissect the car and you're like, oh, well, you're the subject matter expert. So again, the librarian, I think you're the information specialist or the information expert, and you're able to give and receive information, and you're the expert source. So I'm debunking the librarian term today. I'm tearing it down.
Jason with the pushback. He is going to challenge you, and that's a good thing. No, that's a good thing, Jason.
Thank you.
We I told you.
Thank you. There we go, and we've lost one viewer.
Oh, bye, viewer. Yeah, and nomenclature and language, I want to point this out because I've got a fun little librarian nerdy fact. So I forget his first name, but Dewey, the person that started Melville Dewey, that started the Dewey Decimal System, which is used primarily in like education institutions. Oh, I'm sorry. Elementary, middle, high schools, public libraries, higher education, academia uses the Library of Congress system because it's more robust in the topics it can cover. But this goes a little way back. Melville Dewey, he kind of started like librarianship, didn't he? He had a big campaign for like reducing the letters and words. Okay, so maybe he's behind these teams that drop the S. His name was Melville. He actually took off the extra like L and E. So it was like a weird campaign thing, like let's reduce letters because they're making our lives like take longer to do. I don't No, it's just weird. But there's a bunch of more weird stuff about him, so don't Google him too hard because he's kind of considered a creep in some circles.
We've lost another viewer.
Oh no!
That was a big Melville Dewey fan.
They did not like Dewey. They wanted LC, Library of
no.
Congress. And then when you were talking about kind of the inventor or one of the early creators of modern times, we got to talk about Ranganathan. That's the dude. That's the dude who basically set the 5 laws of library science. So I'll drop that into the chat here now too as well. So
okay.
Down.
So we already put out a spoiler alert for our 2 remaining viewers. We're declaring ourselves the cool uncles of academia because we differ from professors. Are we ready, guys?
We ready? Okay.
All right. Okay. We're the cool uncles. Okay. Yep. Oh, toothpick.
Got a toothbrush.
Who's over here in the comments?
Oh,
okay. That was us.
Anybody in the comments? Yeah, see? Yeah. We're cool uncles of academia, see?
So
we have master's degrees and we're educated adults.
Yeah, this is our job.
This is our job.
You can come to the librarians, unlike your professors who are super serious, ultra serious, and should be, as they should be, and protective about the course and the assignments. We have a different viewpoint. We didn't create the course. It's not our baby. We kind of can come in if you need to blow off some steam about complaining about or kind of frustrations about the assignment. Once again, we're there to help you get the assignment done, to research for it. But we're the cool, you can bounce stuff off of us. We're not going to be insulted if you're kind of annoyed with the assignment, right, guys?
Yeah, we want to help.
We're cool.
Yeah, we're cool. We have toothbrushes.
We have tooth implements.
Yes, we have clean teeth and hats and sunglasses. Therefore, we're information professionals.
Nobody wanted to spring for a box of toothpicks, so this is
I said the toothbrush bit would still work. And by the way, Ross is rocking that hat, so just so you know.
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-oh. Jason edited in the back. We get paid.
We're getting paid right now, guys.
Well, this has been great.
Awesome.
I think we solved a lot of the world's problems. There's a lot of disinformation, misinformation out there. And I think we really got to the heart of it. So we are information professionals. Can we help you in our unique role? If you want to set up an appointment with us, we'll go over your assignments. We'll go over your information needs. And remember, as you're looking for your associate's degree or even your bachelor's degree here at Seminole State, you're going to be doing research all the time. What if you want to buy a house? What if you want to have a kid? What if you want to buy a car? What if you want to do something that's going to involve a big major life decision? You probably want to make sure you're doing it right. And therefore you're going to have to do some research, or as I've heard in some circles, research. Which one is it? Is it research or research? Either way, you're going to have to do it. And so we're here to help you succeed. I dropped my hat. Oh, and then I have a special song I dropped the mic. I got a special song for.
Oh, we got a special.
Yeah. But I don't think we can play the whole thing because we might get hit on copyright.
We might get a copyright
claim. Demonetize it.
That's right. Demonetize it. Okay, everyone. This has been great. We've had a lot of fun. We've learned some things. So next time you come to the library, remember the 3 weirdos on the screen were librarians.
Cool uncles.
Master's degrees. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.